Before we start, intros. So I'm Kayleigh Tait and I lead marketing here at MaxContact. I spend most of my time working with customers, prospects, our internal teams from customer success, product, and commercial to really figure out where customer engagement is heading as I suppose, as an industry, but also the trends that are impacting this different engagement strategies, knowing how to get the best out of our teams as well. And I'm joined today by Tom McGarry, who is one of our customer success managers. Tom works day in, day out with contact center teams, helping them get value at MaxContact. He knows the platform inside and out as well. And he's going to show you exactly what tools we have in platform, but also how we're thinking about some of the challenges that customers and businesses are facing today around contact rates and improving those. So today's webinar is all about that. So if you are new to MaxContact and you're joining us for the first time today, before we move on to our topic, we'll let you know who MaxContact is. So we are an AI-powered customer engagement platform. We help organizations turn customer conversations into achieving a better outcome. So whether that's a sale, a resolved query, or simply a compliant conversation that helps protect business or churn, most of our customers use our platform to connect more of their people to conversations, cut down on wasted effort, and help them make better decisions in real time with enhanced insight and intelligence into actually what is going on in the conversations across teams with their customers. So today's topic is all around contact rates. So we'll start by talking about contact rates and why they're falling at the moment. The instinct that we're hearing is to blame technology. So our contact rates are declining. What's the problem? Is it the mechanism I'm using, the platform, the dialer? Is it the data, or is it the network? But that's actually not what we're seeing in the research that we're doing from a consumer side of things. The tests and experimentation and optimization that we're running with organizations and customers, we're seeing that the phone itself isn't broken. Voice as a channel is still a huge channel. It's the preferred channel for consumers as well, especially when decisions or conversations are getting more complex. It's the relationship with the phone that has become broken. So your declining contact rates aren't always a technology problem. It's more of a trust problem when it comes to consumers. And that matters because obviously we're looking to solve challenges. We can potentially be solving the wrong thing, and where you'll spend time and money won't necessarily move the numbers in the direction that you want. So we're going to start to talk about how the market is playing into this and what research we have. So here's a quick snapshot of some of the latest research that we've got around the market that everyone here is likely to be operating in. So we've got average daily calls per agent are down year on year. Outbound is simply getting harder. And that is a trend across every industry and sector use case. It's not just yourself if you are feeling this, which is reassuring in some ways. The second thing playing into here is 60% of contact centers are making AI their top priority for 2026. And 2 in 3 are already using AI in some way or piloting it. And then thirdly here is turnover and I suppose the people element of this. Agent turnover sits around 31%, which has been a challenge in the industry for a long time. It persists. But the pressure on people is real. So when we ask decision makers where their edge actually comes from when moving ahead of the competition or offering an enhanced service, often it's the combination of, well, it's technology, it's the speed of response, and it's having better data as well to bring all these things together to actually move the numbers forward. So if outbound is getting harder across the board, we're just going to have a look at more research as to why that might be. So the problem we're seeing across the market is ultimately down to consumer behaviour and trust, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. And here I suppose, it's the distance between how legitimate outbound contact is, what the customer believes in the moment when that unknown number lights up on their screen. And the numbers are stark. So 69% of UK consumers always or often screen calls from numbers that they do not recognise. Half of ignored messages are a genuine company outreach. They ignored it because they assumed it was a spam. And actually, half have ignored that genuine message because half of who ignored that real message, 77% actually missed something that they really needed to speak to that company about. So if it was either a missed appointment, a late payment reminder, the consequence got worse from that consumer missing that message. So yeah, there is a real benefit behind from a consumer side of things and a business as to why these things matter and why we should be looking at it seriously. You can look at the phones on the right of your screen there. And what we're illustrating here is just this is the same call, but it is presented in three completely different ways. Your customer ultimately is deciding which one they're more likely to answer by looking at the screen. Your customers can't tell you apart from those illegitimate calls, those scam calls, the moment the phone rings. So really ensuring that you have got a strategy to make sure that you put yourselves in the best position going forward is what matters. So before we go into the actual advice as to what you can do about this, we're going to just dive into the metrics that you should be looking at as well to understand where problems might be occurring that you might not be aware of today. So there's three terms that we look at in our data sets and what we talk to customers about. And these can get used interchangeably. We've heard customers and businesses talk about these problems in various different ways. So we'll share how we as an organization talk about these metrics and what they mean. So firstly is connect rate. So connect rate is whether the call rings at all. So this is whether the call got past the carrier, and mostly that is outside of your control. We have got other webinars that have dove into a little bit more detail around this and how carrier spam flagging works. So we can share that afterwards if you want to dig into that into more detail. We've got contact rate, and that is whether a person actually answered. So that's one metric that most teams obsess over on a daily basis, and the one that people are referring to when they say, our numbers are down, this is like a pain for us at the moment and a challenge. And then thirdly, here you've got penetration rate. And that is the portion of your whole data set that you speak to over the life of a campaign. And that's the one that reflects your entire strategy. And it's where you've got the most to gain. So now we're going to start to talk about what actually is suppressing contact rates with these different metrics in mind and how they all work at once. And we'll start to dig into that before I hand over to Tom. So there are now three independent filters. We're calling them the gatekeepers that you're battling when it comes to outbound contact. And these are really making the difference between whether your dialing strategy actually reaches the conversation. So firstly, you've got the consumer in the first place, that consumer behavior trend. So 69% of consumers screen those calls that are from an unknown number. 46% do it specifically because they're worried that it's the scam. And the default now is suspicion. I think the open-mindedness has gone, and yes, so there is that's all playing into this. Secondly, like I mentioned, the carrier, the network. So 66% of people decline a call once it's been flagged as spam by a carrier. And it takes as few as 5 reports to get a number flagged. So blocking now happens from a carrier perspective in hours now, not weeks. And carriers do have a final say in this. You can appeal those outcomes, but like I said earlier, yeah, it is more difficult to do that at this level. The best bet here is really trying to avoid that at all costs. Then thirdly, we've got AI call screening coming into the mix. So we know that AI call screening was introduced a little while ago. It has been increasing in terms of the adoption of it across iPhone and Android over the past 6 months. And it is up 6 points, so 6.6 times in the past 7 months based on our data, and that's what we're seeing as well. So looking at what actually moves the counter and how we're having to navigate those gatekeepers and what we can do about it really comes down to those contact strategies. So closing the trust gap doesn't just come down to that one dialing approach. More doesn't always necessarily mean that you are actually going to move this data in the way that you want it to. We're thinking about contact strategies here. We've laid it out at a really simplistic level, but I'm sure many organizations, when you start to think about how you can start to adopt your approach in this way, things can become much more intelligent, and then you can measure and optimize from there. So firstly, here we've got segmentation of data by intent. So how fresh is the data, whether the customer is expecting the call, where it came from. You've got matching the play with the source. So you wouldn't treat and dial a cold customer or someone you haven't spoken to in 24 months the same way that you would do if someone who had just literally been on your website or a comparison site and asked for a call back in the next 5 minutes. You just wouldn't treat those two data sources the same. You've then got ensuring that you measure the penetration rate over the life of the data. So not a single day's contact rate is going to give you that insight to understand whether what you're doing is working. Understanding that over time, feeding back what's working and what is actually shifting that penetration rate will teach us actually what needs to be done, how to optimize for that next step. And all this sits under the compliance umbrella as well. So you've got Ofcom 0% abandon rate cap. And there's a lot going on. I suppose here the approach is start simple, start to plan this out, and it will become more intelligent over time. Most teams start with one or two sources where, like, I suppose, where is going to be the biggest needle shift, and we can start to optimate from there and start to move that penetration rate forward. Then this slide really is just the example of how looking at these metrics with that penetration in mind really can give you, I suppose, a different answer to the challenges. It will point you in different ways. So here we've got a view of two teams. They're working the exact same data set, so 10,000 records. You've got Team A, who chases the connect rate on a daily basis, contact rate. They're dialing warm records at peak times, and then that stops after a few attempts. Team B here works the data over its lifetime. They vary their call windows, they rest the records, they do reattempts and exhaust the data set properly. So the outcomes here are very different. Team A gets the higher contact rate on a day-by-day basis. So it looks great in the dashboards as you're looking at it, like when that campaign kicks off. Team B ends up reaching 35 points more of the data set overall. So the team chasing the number everyone watches daily actually reaches the fewest customers, and penetration here is the metric worth optimizing for. So yeah, like I said, it really, by looking at these numbers differently, it will point us in different places where we should start to consider optimizing different strategies, which we can start to implement as well. And Tommy's now going to take us through what those strategies are from an outbound scenario to help improve that trust. I'll hand over to you, Tom.
Cool, thank you, Kay. Hi, everybody. So yeah, as Kay says, I'm going to take you through a few bits we've got in the system and tools we have in your system to basically help with these strategies and these contact strategies, which will help you basically get through those gatekeepers and speak to people and more people. So essentially, kind of MaxContact, its main focus when we first started was an outbound dialer. Obviously, we've evolved since then, but it's what we started with, and it's probably what we're more known for, really. So we kind of split the strategy up into kind of three different points here. So some of which I'll go through, some of the aspects I'll go through in the next few slides and kind of go through some of the settings as well in accordance with those. But essentially, kind of number one there, you can see your hygiene and reputation. So how are you known to customers? So things like your recall rules. Do we want to keep trying people that are not interested effectively? So you have those tools, those controls in MaxContact to basically stop ringing certain customers and certain contacts when they say so. So you're not trying them, you're not upsetting people, you're not more likely to get your number ending up on those spam lists. CLI hygiene as well. CLIs can be put on several different aspects of the system. You put them on campaigns, lists, leads. You can see kind of where your contact rate is going with those, and you can kind of look at that on an hour by hour basis. And obviously there are third-party branded caller ID operations out there that can offer you that branded caller that Kay mentioned before, with your brand and your image appearing on screen when people pick up. And we'll have a look at that and kind of where that can work best and where it's maybe not so beneficial. So we've got that. Number two, we've got there the contact strategy. So MaxContact has a few different ways you are able to dial and reach out to customers. So we have the algorithms, we have predictive, we have progressive, we have the preview dial, which is more where the call is presented to the user and they can then look at the details and make that call themselves. We also have tools that you can auto switch. So as Kay mentioned before, it's important that you stay within those Ofcom rules and legislations with the 0% drop rate cap. So the auto switch can help you do that. Again, I'll explain a little bit more on that on the next couple of slides. We've got the retries and cadence. So again, if you're not getting through to somebody at a certain time of the day, calling them again at the same time the next day might not be beneficial to you. So trying to identify where that best time to call is, and that will help maximize you actually contacting people. Okay, and then depending on your aggregate, your source of data, the speed to lead can be important as well. So if somebody has gone on your website and they said, call me back, you want to make sure you're calling them back as soon as you can. You want to prioritize that data over maybe some of your colder data, your older data and things like that. Because as Kay mentioned, customers can go elsewhere. If you leave it too long, it can be too late. They've already spoken to somebody else. Okay. And then the third option there, the third thing we'll cover is kind of the reporting and the diagnostics we've got in MaxContact. So we have our standard suite of reports. We have the dashboards, we have your live stats, your penetration rate is there in several places. We have list and data kind of reports as well. So you can see along with your supplier summary, so your cohort analysis, kind of where that data is coming from, how is it performing in accordance with contact rate and penetration rate as well, along with your kind of CLIs and what you put on your list and your management side from that side. And then we've also got, obviously, these tools at your disposal, the conversation analytics tool, which is really powerful. And you can basically delve into your calls from there. So you can start to look into more what happened on a call, why the call ended in a certain way it did. Does it match what the users are putting? Because if the users are using a disposition that doesn't match the call, that then goes into your retry logic, your cadence for calling people back, things like that. So that can also lead to poor hygiene of CLIs because you're calling people back that don't want to be. So using tools like that, you can kind of help and have a big impact on what we've got. So what we'll do, we'll go through on the next few slides kind of different data sources and how that data comes into you, and maybe some of the tools that you can do to help depending on the scenario. So Kay, if you're okay to move to the next slide, please. Cool, thank you. So first off, we'll kind of cover those direct and quote backs. So this is when somebody's been on your website and they've said, call me back. It's very important to get back to that customer as soon as you can. So there's a little stat there, obviously, getting in contact with someone within the first 5 minutes, it can make you 100 times more likely to convert and at least speak to them. So we want to get through, otherwise it's too late. They've moved on, they've gone to another website. You need to get in touch with them quickly. So some of the tools we've got in place, obviously, we have our API imports, and with the API imports, we have a high priority flag. So as long as you've got this ticked, this would push that call to the top of your dialing queue. And this means it will be one of the first that we call from a systems point of view. So that will pop up for the agent. Now, again, we also have the preview dialing. Now, these priority calls, they can go in whichever algorithm you want them to. If you want to dial progressively, predictively, you can do. The benefit of the preview dial is that it does give the agent and the user a little bit of time to basically be able to see what's happening with the call, see what's happening on the lead, and then say, okay, I know who I'm about to speak to. I'm prepared for the call. So you have that all there. Okay. Now with the preview dial, it is important as well. We have tools around the preview dial. So by default, an agent could have a lead pop up on the screen, and they could sit there and they could look at the details, and they could say, right, I'm going to prepare myself for that. Now, what we also have at your disposal is a preview timeout. So at a time limit you set, and that can be on a campaign by campaign basis, you can basically say, after so many seconds, I want the call to go. So if the agent has been sat there for 30 seconds, I want to make that call. I don't want to be waiting too much longer. Now, we did have a customer that was speaking to recently sell broadband packages, and they had live web leads. So it was very important that as soon as somebody goes on the website, this call comes through to the agents and they can dial it pretty much straight away. Now, what the issue they were having is that they were getting so many web leads, they were struggling to get through the volume that they were getting, and therefore that time to dial started to increase. When we looked into it, we saw that sometimes it was because the agents were maybe staying in preview a little bit too long. And therefore, because of that, there was nobody free available to take these new leads that came in. And therefore, those leads got older and older. And by the time they did dial, like I say, the customer's already gone somewhere else. So what we introduced was this preview timeout. And we set the timeout to 30 seconds, which we all agreed and did some analysis on this. This was enough for the agent in this scenario to be able to understand the case, understand what the customer was asking for, and then make that call. So again, it sped up the agent time. What it also did is it increased the speed to lead by 5 times. So just by introducing that setting, we were now getting through leads 5 times faster and therefore calling people back quicker. Okay, so again, that's just one of the smaller settings we've got that can really have a big impact on what you've got there. Obviously, there we've mentioned as well the verified caller ID. So there are third-party products there through companies like Hire and First Orion. They can basically brand your call. So when you call out over a certain CLI, it can come up on the customer's phone with your logo, your company name, so customers understand who's calling them. If they are expecting a call from you and they get a random number, will they pick up? Have you told them what number is going to be calling them? Not always. So with this branded caller, basically they will understand who it is. Right, I do need to answer that call because I've asked them to call me back. So things like that. What can also help as well, pre-call SMSs, things like that, you can kind of send an SMS beforehand just to say, we will be calling you soon. So obviously that is available in certain, you can make that as part of your workflow. And that can happen even before it gets to MaxContact. So you've got those kind of levers there that can let customers know you're about to call or you are calling, and it's with them. Again, because of the brand recognition, because they've just been on your website, they should be more likely to then answer the phone because they know it's you calling them and the reason for call as well. Okay, so that's basically your direct quotes when people have been on your website. So, Kay, if you're okay to move on to the next slide, we'll now cover kind of aggregator leads. So if someone does go on your comparison websites, they enter their details. The comparison website obviously then sends that out to several different companies. It's not necessarily just you on yourself. There's other companies there you're competing with. So in this scenario, again, the quicker you get to contact that customer, the more likely you are to succeed. If you leave this half an hour, 5 other companies have already dealt with them. So that company now suddenly, that customer, doesn't need to deal with you because they've already been taken care of. So again, the difference here is that the customer, has not been on your website. They've been on an aggregator website. if you call them, do they know why you're calling? You could just be a random call, even though you've been given their data and you are calling them. You could just be random. So again, some of the toolkit we've been over in the last slide, that high priority API import. Let's flag that call in the system as a high priority. It needs to push to the top of the list. Speed is important. We need to get through to that. We've also done a bit of a change here. Obviously, you still have the preview option, but because speed is of the essence of you are competing with other companies, predictive dial is there to kind of help you make that call quick. Now, some of the other systems we have in place there, obviously on your list, you have the fetch waiting. So this list is important. It's your high priority data. It will push to the top, but let's not kind of drown out what we are fetching with the other data that might be older. So your fetch weights on your list can be adjusted to make sure that we just concentrate on this list, this high priority list, before we then move on to the other data. Okay. Now with the predictive, obviously we still have settings in place and guardrails around that to kind of stay within Ofcom regulations. You still have your automatic upgrade and downgrade to progressive. So if you don't have enough agents to maybe support the predictive algorithm, which will make more calls at once, so do you have enough users to kind of fulfill that need and make sure there's enough available to take those calls when they do contact? So we have the auto switch, which will, after a number of agents are logged onto the campaign, it will automatically jump up to predictive. And then once agents start to log off a break or at the end of the day, it will automatically downscale itself to progressive. So we have those in there automatically. Obviously, if you're blended as well, we have the undroppable setting as well, which will kind of keep users in reserve for those outbound calls. So they're less likely to drop. So we have those. Again, in your workflow, you could introduce kind of pre-call SMSs. So you are sending an SMS to the customer to kind of say, we will be contacting you soon. This is a number we're going to be contacting you from. And maybe, again, your company name might not be as well known. So that brand recognition is important. So just because they've been on a website doesn't mean they understand why you're calling. So that SMS can be quite useful in kind of explaining the reason that you're going to get that call. We also have the ability, and we'll come on to it a little bit later, to send SMSs based on post-call actions. So essentially, if we didn't get through to the customer, we can then drop them an SMS and just say, this is who we were, this is why we tried to contact you, this is a number you can get us back on. So we have that ability. You've also there got the retry rules and the cadence. So we mentioned this is a high priority list, and you can roll data over between lists based on certain result codes or based on attempts. So it might be that because this is a high priority list, you might have a higher cadence of retries. So maybe a shorter time between the retries on certain result codes that you're allowed to, just to try and kind of get in touch with that customer that contacts before maybe it's too late. After so many attempts, you can then roll over to a secondary list that maybe has a slightly lower cadence on retries. So again, you're still concentrated on that fresh data. We've tried this customer a few times, within the first window. We weren't able to get through with them. Let's maybe deprioritize them because they may have gone somewhere else, but we still have those separations. So we have those lists, and that allows you to separate it and the rules that can move between the two as well. Okay, so they're kind of your web leads. So customers have gone looking for a certain product, a certain item, and you are trying to get back in touch with them. So the next slide, okay, if you can switch over, please. The next slide will kind of cover your caller data or data you've purchased. So this data is maybe not as speed. The speed is not as important, but you still want to kind of work through those leads. So this might be data you've purchased from somewhere. So again, someone might have gone on a website at some point and they might have expressed interest. They might have put a marketing interest in there, and you've got that data and you're putting them in there. So again, you want to dial through that data. And this is where it's important that basically your reputation is good. So when you are speaking or when you are reaching out to people, they don't know why you're reaching out to them because they've not dealt directly with your company before. So it's important to kind of keep what we have and keep that hygiene, the CLI reputation well. So we're not hammering people too much. It's a fair cadence of calls, and we are making sure that those calls go through to the right people. So again, as I mentioned before, we have the different algorithms. We have progressive. So progressive will basically dial on 1-to-1 ratio. And we have that, and again, kind of guarantees that you will not drop or abandon your outbound calls on there. because of the way we're dialing. And we can obviously automatically move that up to your predictive dial as well. We have your outcome level max attempts. So what we can do and what that means is that when we are ringing customers, we can try them so many times before we basically deactivate that lead. We're not going to try them anymore. Now, what we can do on that, you can put on a list by list basis, you can put a maximum number of attempts. So, and again, this goes into what Kay was saying before about your penetration, your contact rate. Just because we've not contacted someone straight away, especially with cold data, doesn't mean we won't further down the line. And it's kind of business specific, it's industry specific, where the life of that data kind of ends. So you may still get return on that after trying it 7, 8 times. Another company may still get returns after 20 attempts. So that's where, as Kay was saying, it's important to kind of monitor it, test it, just keep an eye on it and just see how maybe a test bed of data is going to look into that penetration rate. So again, we have that based on number of attempts to a customer. We can also do that based on certain result codes as well. So it's great saying we're going to call over the life of this contact, we're going to call them 20 times. But if we have got 5 no answers in a row, are we realistically maybe going to get them on the 6th? We do have the tools in MaxContact in your system recalls section to basically say, after a certain number of a certain result code in a row, let's deactivate that lead and let's kind of prioritize other leads and move on from that one for now. So again, we do have that option in MaxContact. It's on your list, on your system recalls in there. Okay. The other option we have there, and it's mentioned, we have answer machine detection within the system. And this can be added on a list by list basis, and it can be turned on or off depending on the type of numbers you put in there. So you can categorize numbers when you import them as work numbers, as home numbers, as mobile numbers. You can have answer machine detection just on home numbers and mobile numbers if you want to, because you know that businesses might have an IVR and therefore answer machine detection may pick them up as an answer machine. The other benefit of answer machine detection is obviously if you don't have answer machine detection on, every call that contacts, every call that gets through that carrier gatekeeper and somebody picks up the phone, whether it be a person or answer machine, it's put through to the users. So the users then spend time determining it's an answer machine, hanging up on it, putting the wrap code on there, and if they have to write any notes in there as well, they would have to write those notes, and then they're back in the queue for the next call. So not only is that quite demoralizing for the agents because every call could be an answer machine, and therefore are they properly prepared for actually getting a real person through? If they've had 10 answer machines in a row and a person's picked up and said hello, they're gonna assume the next one's an answer machine. They may not be properly prepared, and it is quite demoralizing. Turning answer machine detection on basically will detect 90% of answer machines and stop them going through to the users, therefore giving the users more time. So another customer I was speaking to recently, and they were a debt collection company, they didn't have answer machine detection on. So when we started looking into it and kind of the time savings there, what we found out was we were able to save them about 55 hours a week of agent time that they were spending just on talking to answer machines or, wrapping up an answer machine call before moving on. So once we turned answer machine detection on, they were actually able to get through 38% more calls. So again, a small setting that we've got that's really beneficial for if you need to put it on. And again, it can be switched on and off at a list by list basis if you've got to. And obviously MaxContact has the ability to, when you do detect an answer machine, we can automatically leave a message as well. So saving the agent's time, allowing you to get through more dials. So with those time saving benefits of kind of A&D and some of the other bits as well to kind of make sure that we're not recalling data that's not going to pick up and not going to contact, that's good to kind of work through your cold data and get through there. Kay, if you're okay to move to the next one, please. So this slide is, again, it's kind of similar to cold data, but it's your data that you've spoke to before. So it's data that you've kind of brought back to life. And there are several reasons you do this. But with MaxContact, obviously, your data is your data. It lives in the system forever. So it's always there. We're not going to lock you out of any data you've got. It's your data. So it's there. It will always be there. If you need to deactivate it or bring it back to life, you can do. So you can do that obviously through the result codes or through the max attempts, as we've talked about. We've also got the list data manager in there, which will allow you to kind of deactivate data based on certain criteria and then bring it back based on other criteria. So you can do that. It's in the system. It's fully audited. So you can kind of see who's made those changes and why that change was made. So it might be that you've deactivated certain data because you're no longer prioritizing that product. It could be that you know that contracts are up or due for renewal, so you might bring back some data. I was speaking to a customer recently who sells contracts to different companies, but literally they basically recycle their old data because they have within there, they have the data kind of knowing when those contracts are due for renewal. So they can bring that data back instead of kind of clogging up what they've already got in the list and the data as well. They could remove that list, or they could deactivate the data and then bring it back when they know the renewal is due. So we have those there. You are able to send SMS from the system. You can bulk send SMS as well to kind of let people know that we are going to be contacting you, and this is a number we're going to be contacting you from. So that's important. You've also got tools where you can import records with a certain CLI. So whenever that number is dialed, it will always be that set CLI that is presented to the customer. So when you've spoken to them originally, could you ask them to save this number? We'll be back in touch in the future. So when you do relive that customer, bring it back to life, it could be 6 months down the line, it could be a year down the line. When we ring it again, because the CLI is attached to that customer, it will present that CLI again. So they automatically know that it's your business calling them. Okay. We've kind of mentioned it before again, but the best time to call is really powerful, and it can really help you kind of get in contact with those people. As customers, you know your data. You know that if you call in businesses, what time those businesses will be open. So when you import data, you can do so with a time to call or a date time to call them. And that will be the initial call. From there, you've obviously got the result codes that can have different recall times on them. You've got public callbacks as well. So it might not be necessarily the call needs to go back through to the user that got through to the customer, but they can put a public callback because you know the best time to dial. You can see that. And then we've also got obviously our standard reporting in there, like the performance summary by week report. So you can kind of see what times and what hours your best contact rate is, sorry. So you can see what's in there, what's working, and what times of the week they are working. Okay. So we have all those tools within MaxContact to kind of help you get through those gatekeepers and help you kind of connect to or contact customers. And again, as Kay said, it's important to obviously contact rate is important, but obviously over the life of the data, your penetration rate does come into effect. So again, that is a metric that's measured across MaxContact as well. So you have that, so you can basically see how are we doing? Are the other things that we talked about here, are they having a positive impact? And therefore your penetrations rate is better. You are talking to people, and you are talking to more people across the life of the data. So what I will do, I'll hand back over to Kay just for kind of the roundup.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So bringing it all together across all of the research that we've got, one thing stands out consistently, and it's expecting the call is the single biggest reason people answer. Sounds obvious, but that's what also the research says. Almost 87% said so. After that, it's the number being saved, caller ID showing the company name, a text or email beforehand, and a clear voicemail also can play into that pickup rate as well. So none of it is complicated, as Tom has been through. It's dependent on the source, depends on the best or optimal strategy that we'd recommend you trialing and testing and learning from. So it's things like the speed to lead, pre-call SMS, branded caller ID, answer machine detection, all configured properly, exactly the types of things that Tom walked through. So the trust gap itself isn't something that you can fix with one thing or one setting. There is no silver bullet. It's very much around matching that right play with the right source, measuring the right metric as well, so that you can pinpoint how I should be moving forward with this campaign, and giving customers a reason to trust you as well, so that that screening reduces, and that's what we wanted to leave you with for today. So we're going to go over to the Q&A. There are a few questions. I'll stop sharing my screen actually. so I can see the questions properly. So, how do you tell the difference between a genuine connect rate problem and a contact rate problem on our own numbers? Tom, you can take that one.
Yeah, it's cool. So basically, it's using the reporting. So we've got the standard reports in MaxContact. You do have access to a replica database as well if you need a bit more in-depth reporting. But essentially, kind of all calls that do fail to connect, sorry, because the carrier has blocked them, you will get the operator result code. And obviously, the operator result code, it was long thought this was just invalid numbers and bad numbers, but it's not. It's any time the operator intercepts a call. So as Kay was saying before, basically in terms of if a carrier has marked your number as spam or they have flagged it, that would come back as a carrier. And within the system, we have different recall rules based on what we also get back from the network is called a cause value, which is kind of a network code behind it. So even though we get the operator result code, we also get back a code behind it. And based on that code, we have different recall rules in there as well. So there is a page on MaxContact called the SIP outbound codes, where you can kind of see what recall rules we do have depending on the codes. And these are all SIP codes. They are all Googleable as well. So you can see them there. But generally, it's going to be your MaxContact reporting will kind of show you what level of operators we're getting back from there as well. And again, your performance summary reports by hour, you'll be able to kind of see where your connect rate is starting to struggle. So if you can see it going down hour by hour, you know there's an issue or, things like that.
Thanks, Tom. There's one that has been answered in the chat, but I'll shout it out as well, just so everyone can hear this one. So, how confident are you that AMD meets the Ofcom false positive rules? So, yeah, our platform defaults to passing the call to a live agent the moment that there is any doubt, rather than holding the line to improve that detection confidence. And every ambiguous case goes through to a person. Tom, is there anything else you want to add live to that one?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that we do false positive testing with every release of MaxContact. So every time we do an upgrade, we do false positive testing in the background just to make sure that nothing's changed and we're still in line with the Ofcom regs.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Uh, does AMD detect call screening and put them through to agents, or does it treat it as an answer machine? That's a good question.
So it can depend sometimes on the message that comes through, because obviously it is a recorded message that plays back. So sometimes that will be picked up as an answer machine. So in that case, it's very important that the message that you have. So obviously you need an automated message if you detect answer machine. So it's very important that automated message kind of gets to the point quite quickly, and it does explain who you are and why you're calling. And therefore, when that does come up on a customer's phone, they can see that and then they can choose to answer or not.
Thanks, Tom. And is branded caller ID worth it for every source type? It was mentioned on a few of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, it's not always. So it can be. So obviously, if the customer knows who you are, so if they've been on your website and they're expecting a call from you, it's helpful then to kind of say, right, we are the people that are supposed to be calling you. If again, if any of this is cold data, the customer doesn't know who you are, branded caller can work a little bit because it does give them an idea of who you are and why you're calling, but it's that brand recognition. If I was to get a call from a company X and I wasn't expecting a call from them, is it clear? Do I understand your brand? Do I understand who you are enough to then pick up the phone? So it's not completely beneficial in every case. Again, it is that brand recognition. It's, do people know you, and is it useful for you? There is a cost involved as well, so it would then be the analysis of whether that cost is enough for you as well, or whether it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that, like we said, with all these things, that is worth testing across those different sources, like Tom said, and seeing what is moving the needle when it comes to the different tactics that you can use.
Because it can be as well that obviously you've got your reporting there. You could run this on a certain CLI. So you could run branded call on a certain CLI, and then you could do that on a list, and you could report back on the list to look at your contact rates and things like that. So you can basically run a trial effectively for a couple of weeks and then look at the data. How is my penetration doing? Am I getting through to people? So you can kind of gauge the benefits over a short length of time.
Good. And then branded calls and pre-call SMS, is this something that we can enable with MaxContact?
So generally, the branded calls is a third party tool. So it would be your, there are different companies out there that do it. So they would be your port of call. There are versions of them as well. So as I said before, there's generally a cost with them for the full branded caller. Um, there is sometimes a free version as well where you can register your numbers with them, and that kind of raises the number of reports that it takes to become marked as spam. So we do have some customers that have some success with that because, as Kay mentioned before, it's different now, and that numbers can be marked, CLIs can be marked as spam quite quickly now. So anything you can do to kind of raise that cap. As I say, there are free tools there that I know Hire have a free version where you can register these numbers, and that will kind of heighten the number of reports that it takes to be marked as spam on there as well. And then the pre-call SMS, there are ways of doing it. Generally, customers will do it through their CRM. Especially, it's important if those leads are coming from the website and they are quick. It's usually part of the workflow to kind of fire off the SMS, and then we will make the call and follow off the back of that.
Yeah, and I'd say with that one, speak to your account manager or reach out to one of the team, because we've got recommendations around the branded call. Tom's mentioned Hire, for example. And then, yeah, we can help and support you get SMS set up. Let me see. I thought I saw one more question pop in, and I can no longer see it. It might be in the chat. One moment. Um, there's a couple in here. If if turning voicemail detection on, so if I turn voicemail detection on, is it possible to call agent? Is it possible to call? Let me read this first before reading it out. If turning voicemail detection on, is it possible the call agent can move on to the next call, but an automated voicemail would still be left on a lead?
Yes,
So, yeah.
that's right. So if you have answer machine detection on, obviously it's an Ofcom regulation that you need to be able to leave a message. So you can't have a silent call. So what you can do on a list by list basis is effectively you can tell the system when we do detect answer machine, if the system detects it, this is the IVR message to play. So you can basically route it through a message on there. So yes, if the system detects the answer machine, it never puts the call through to an agent. So that's done. Obviously, the answer machine detection only is available on the progressive and the predictive algorithms. If you're preview, it's the user making the call. So it would be up to the user. And even if the user does make the call, you can still have a result code which automatically plays a message and takes the agent out of it so the agent can move on. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It would leave a message on there without the agent intervention.
And then the next question, I'm struggling to read today, but please confirm which of the SIP codes represented customer who actually blocked the number we are calling from. I'm not technical enough to know what that question
No, that's
means.
fine. So,
Can you?
so essentially, what I was saying before is if you were to make a call and you get the operator has intercepted it because maybe you're a spam, so the CLI has been marked as a spam. When we get that operator result code back, we also get a network calls value from them. So the network calls values can differ. They can mean different things. Sometimes it's forbidden, sometimes it's an invalid number, things like that. So there is a certain code which basically just denote that the operator has pushed the call away. So what we'll do, I can see that question and who's asked it. I will find out for you and I'll contact you directly on that one.
Amazing. Thanks, Tom. Let me just double check there's no more. Oh, they've popped in. I think we've got through all the questions there. So before we go, if any of this has resonated, next step is really simple. We're more than happy to take a look at your data, support you in helping map this out as well. So start by looking at your data, your sector, where are the biggest gains that could be had for you. Um, so we can do that in various different ways. It could just be a call with customer success, your account manager. We could have a working session as well with your team. Um, and it's just really a conversation around what this might look like for your organization. There might be some quick wins to be had. Some of this might be learning over time. Either way, reach out to us. We're more than happy to support you in linking you up with branded caller IDs and, like we said, any of the other channels that need connecting, like SMS. So the link will follow up after this in the email. And thank you so much for your time. And a big thank you for Tom for walking us through what is possible with MaxContact. Appreciate your time and thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you, guys.